Hi, I'm Carrot. Welcome back to my Random Progress series, where everything we do is determined by spinning a wheel. In this episode, our primary objective is to fill a chest with leaves. I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but since I knew I would be working with trees in this episode, I decided to see what interesting things I could find out about the most common tree in Minecraft, the oak tree. Did you know there are whole myths and fairy tales centered around just oak trees? I wasted so many hours reading those stories. I did find one I really liked the deeper meaning of, so I figured I'd tell you about it while I get all those leaves. The story is called The Last Dream of the Old Oak, and it was written by Hans Christian Andersen and published in the late 1850s. So basically, the story starts out with an old oak tree that's like 365 years old. And it tells about how the trees stay awake through the 3 seasons of the year and then sleep in winter instead of sleeping every night like people do. In the summer, while the oak tree is awake, it would speak with a certain type of fly that only lives for a single day. The oak tree would often express sadness that the flies only had one day to live, saying that their lives must be full of sorrow. The flies, however, always argued with the tree, saying their lives were filled with many moments of beauty. They told the oak tree that the beauty of the world does not end with death, and that they measure time in moments rather than years. The flies felt they lived just as long as the oak tree because they experienced time differently. The oak tree, being so old, had had this conversation many times in the summer season, day after day, with every generation of flies that it met. As the seasons passed and winter approached, the oak tree settled down to sleep. But just as it fell into a deep sleep, it had a pretty incredible dream. In the dream, bells were ringing as if it were Christmas time, and the weather was warm as if it were summer. The oak began to relive its life in the dream. Knights and ladies passed through the forest, soldiers set up camp beneath its branches. As time passed, young lovers carved their names into its bark, and children climbed its sweeping limbs. The tree grew taller, and its roots grew deeper, and as time passed, it saw every person who ever wandered by, and every plant that had ever grown around it. The oak tree was overcome with happiness and celebrated being able to see all the life that it had ever known in this one ephemeral moment. And soon it began to ask how it could make this always be. The multitude of plants all around answered and said that this is what's possible after life. And so within its dream, the oak tree found itself stretching up further and higher into the sky, up and up and up, until its roots broke loose from the ground and the giant oak tree floated away into the sky. The tree was so overwhelmed at being with all those that it had ever loved in that moment that it sank. In the real world, a huge storm was raging. It was violent and deadly, and while the mighty oak dreamt of its roots being released from the earth and its whole being floating into the sky, the wind pushed against the great tree and knocked it over, tearing it up by its roots. Later, a ship full of sailors who had survived the storm headed to the coast where the oak tree was, and seeing it dead, they were really sad. They had known the oak tree well and had used it as a landmark for many generations. Knowing that there could never be another tree they could respect as much as that oak tree, they sang a song that described the redemptive nature of love and the promise of eternal life after death. That's a cool story, huh? I mean, it was definitely more of an interpretive representation than an actual summary, but it gets the point across. And look at that! Now we have an entire chest full of leaves, and we've barely even noticed how boring leaf gathering is. I'm about sick of trees and leaves for the time being. However, getting all those leaves did remind me of how useful shulker boxes are, and one of the add-ons I play with gives us recipes for crafting shulker boxes, elytra, and beacons before we go to the end or fight the wither. I forgot all about it before now, but now I want a shulker box, or two. My luck, I'll spend another fill a chest task if I don't. The recipe requires an ender chest and a phantom membrane. I can get the ender chest easy enough. I'll see you when the phantoms spawn. I want enough membranes for 2 shulker boxes and an elytra. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. See it? Had a little glitch in the matrix. and somehow missed the actual making of these fancy wings, but let's take a quick fly around. That was fun. Don't want to waste too much durability, though. I'm actually not very good at killing phantoms. Now, let's see what we'll be doing in our next episode. Get a goat. That sounds like a fun adventure. I haven't found any mountains tall enough for goats to spawn yet. I could end up exploring for ages. Anyway, as always, if there's a specific task you want me to do, drop it in the comments. If it's not already on the wheel, I'll add it. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye!